This is just discussion pertaining to, do we want to add a non-agenda item?
Strictly pertaining to that motion, Mayor.
Specific pertaining to the wages, okay?
Thank you. So if I will make a quick comment just related to this motion. It's just, we need to have a discussion about it. I understand the positions are different, and I fully understand that, our strategies are different looking into this, but I believe that we need a discussion. This is a matter that is significantly sensitive for the public, for our first responders, and I highly encourage all of my colleagues to allow this motion to come to the table and then express their point of view. Thank you.
Mr. Hamblin.
Okay, thank you. I mean, this is something I feel extremely passionate about. And since the mayor and the chairman of public safety has canceled the committee meeting, I think we at least owe it to our first responders to engage in this discussion. Right now is the most timely, efficient, and transparent way to accomplish it. And that's why I think this is a perfect time. I think a vote against even discussing this is a vote against the men and women that are out there right now protecting us and our city while we're sitting here at homes safely in our homes. And so I completely support at least allowing the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Spears.
Thank you, Mayor. Tammy, this is a question for you. My impression is this motion is simply to add a non-agenda item regardless of the topic, even though we know what the topic is. It's not to have the roll call vote. It's just to add potentially another motion where we would then vote on having a roll call vote. Am I correct?
Councilmember Spears, Councilmember Farasati has been clear about what his desired agenda item would be, which is appropriate, and there would be a roll call vote on his motion to add the non-agenda item, but that is what we're talking about right now, whether or not that agenda item should be added.
So should the non-agenda item motion pass, then we'd probably have another motion on the specific topic. Should it fail, then we simply are done.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification on that.
Sure.
Mr. Farasati, did you leave your hand up or did you have a clarification on? Okay, Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll just ask Tammy a question. Tammy, given the topic that Councilmember Farasati wants to talk about, I would just like to confirm, based upon the form of government that we have here, whether the council has jurisdiction to even have this discussion. For what Councilmember Farasati described, it sounds like they want to make a vote on rescinding the pay freeze that the city manager has announced. And it's my understanding we don't even have the authority to do that. So could you comment on that, please?
Councilmember Lyons, I would say that you obviously as a body have the right to talk about whatever is appropriate. However, I will tell you in answer to your specific question, the jurisdiction of this issue lies squarely with the city manager, and that is outlined not only in the general concept is outlined, your form of government in your charter ordinance 97, but more specifically in your law, in the code at 260030, where that jurisdiction is specifically spelled out. Your role in this matter as a body is to approve the budget. The city manager then is given the authority to establish the merit system, classification plan, pay plan, and handles raises and pay relative to all other employees.
So thank you, Tammy, I appreciate that. So given that, I would just like to voice my opposition to the motion. I see no value in having this governing body have a discussion about something that we can't have anything, have any authorization or influence to do. It's really within the city manager's domain to make this decision. I support what the city manager is doing. This is a national emergency. All he's doing is trying to, as he described, trying to get his arms around our expenses and taking some very critical actions here. So my view is this is not an appropriate motion for us to consider, and I'm going to vote against the motion to add an agenda item. Thank you.
Mr. Skoog.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Paul, but I am going to take this opportunity to talk about the issue for a second. First of all, the city manager issued a freeze on all employee raises for 60 days, is my understanding. Because of the emergency that we're in, that decision falls clearly within his authority to do so. Beyond that, our employees, public safety across the board, public works, everybody are vital to this city and delivering services and safety to our community. And they are doing an incredible, they do an incredible job every day. And in these times, they're doing an even more incredible. And I think making the equation that making a smart financial decision to delay a decision for 60 days is disrespecting our employees is just darn wrong. And we show respect to our employees every day. As I was chair of public safety, I got to hear the stories that they do on a daily basis. I'm very proud of our employees. I'm very proud of our planning staff. I'm very proud of our police and of our fire department. I'm proud of all of them. They do a great job, and I wish that we could pass it. That was our intention, was to give this raise. That was our intention. We'd all voted for it. But because of what's going on today, and because of the reason that our city manager gave us, this is not the time to do it. It's our job as stewards of this community to delay this decision till we have a better understanding of where we are financially. And I hope that the president is right and that within 2 weeks, the world's going to go back to normal. But we can't rely on that decision. We're the guys who have to make sure that people get paid. We're the ones who have to make sure that our residents are taken care of. And so I am not going to support this. I think it's inappropriate. We will discuss this. I am confident we will discuss this and every other decision that the city manager has made in the short, near future. And I am hopeful that in 60 days or 90 days, we can look back and say, man, we overreacted. And here we can implement this change. But today, with what we know, what our responsibilities are as elected officials, I cannot move this forward, and so I'm against the motion. Thank you.
Mr. Fersati.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I thought that your instruction was to only talk about the addition of non-agenda item. So it is still my impression that you only wanted us to talk if we agree with it or not. So the lecture we just heard was going to the issue. So now, are we supposed to talk about the issue, or we are sticking and adhering to your instruction to only talk about addition of the item?
Well, I think we're talking about should we add a non-agenda item, and as Tammy said, there could be discussion about adding the non-agenda item. And the non-agenda item you suggested was to reverse the pay raise.
Correct, but like I said, I thought your instruction was to.
If you have something to say, go right ahead if you've got
okay.
something.
So, all right, so now that it's clear. Tammy, my question to you is that, am I hearing from you that if we just pass a roll call vote that says we as the governing body would like to reverse this specific action, you as the head of our legal department are going to challenge it?
That would not be my role, but what I will tell you, based on what I've been asked, is that you don't have the authority. The code puts the authority, the code that you all have adopted puts that authority with the city manager.
Okay, therefore, a resolution of the governing body cannot reverse this?
Correct.
Hypothetically.
Correct.
Okay, hypothetically. Okay, so that basically is, if that's going to clarify the situation, then it's going to be the situation. But now that we are talking about the essentiality, the importance of this item, let me just voice my opinion for a minute or two. First of all, I don't think a structure like that is appropriate, point blank. But it's on the books, we have to follow. Number one, we are the governing body. The legitimization of the decisions done by this administration comes from the vote of the people. And here we are facing a situation where these actions are very, very important and very, very sensitive. So let me read a one sentence from a first responder. He says, every day I go out, I ask myself, is this the day that I'm going to catch coronavirus and die? So even if this is not going to get to where we want it to go, and Paul Lyon might be legally right, but we owe a discussion to people, at least on it. Because they need to know from their elected representatives if they supported these first responders beyond the legality or not. And I can assure you that the first responders would feel much better, even if the money was not in their pocket, to know that in the spirit you would have supported. And I am hearing from my very respected colleagues that they didn't even agree with it. They don't even want to discuss it. And that would be disheartening. That would be disheartening. Remember, the financial burden of reversing this decision for the first responders for the 2 months is probably about $100,000, which is not going to fix anything for us. If we have a fairness question here, none of us is like them. Their job was already difficult, their job was already hazardous, and now there's COVID-19 waiting for them to happen. So if you are talking about ethics or fairness of it, I don't think there is any winning conversation or argument for this. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Even if this could not be reversed, which I believe we need to talk about that structure later, I believe that we owe the people of Overland Park a clear conversation. We owe our first responders a clear conversation so they would see where we stood in the time that was critical for all. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Hamlin.
I just wanted to make a comment that, whether a city manager or whoever, any staff member, none of this is meant to be offensive towards them. I just simply disagree. And I think that's what we're all elected to do. I think the idea, the notion that we absolutely cannot take up any discussion under any crisis over any matter to provide our input to our staff and city manager is absurd. So to vote against this just because you don't think it's appropriate to provide your input to the decision makers when we're the city council I just reject that notion 100%.
Thank you, Mr. Spears.